Hi, good evening, or I guess it's evening still. Good evening, and welcome to the Hickory Airport. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order, the joint meeting of the Hickory City Council and the Burke County Board of Commissioners for this special joint meeting. At this time, let's allow Burke County to also open their board.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners special joint meeting with the Hickory City Council at the Hickory Regional Airport for Tuesday, March the 9th, 2021. All of our commissioners are present, clerk, our county attorney as well, and a couple other folks, I believe. And I would ask you to silence your mobile devices. If you have mobile devices that may make some noise, please take care of that right now. And I want to express appreciation to the Hickory folks for hosting this meeting today. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda from our folks.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor signify by the uplifting hand. And it's all of us, Madam Clerk.
All right. All right, this time I'm going to call upon our city manager, Mr. Warren Wood.
Thank you. Good morning. Somebody said, welcome to Hickory to the Burke County folks, and the Burke County folks said, no, welcome to Burke County. So that's a good way to start. So thank you all for coming today. We're excited about this opportunity, and we're going to go through what's involved with the Memorandum of Understanding. And also, I'd like to talk a little bit about some other things that we have going on really just around the airport in Burke County. And when I sat down and added it up, I didn't really realize the dollar figure that was involved, but it's significant. I just would like to take a few minutes to go through some of that. If I can get my thing to work. All right, Daisy. Can you do it manually?
It has to be with the computer.
Okay.
That's all it is.
I'll do it.
Or maybe you can change
You want to see?
No. All right. Well, with that,
training.
the enter button.
Space button.
Okay. All right. So the Burke County portion of Hickory. So here's what we have going on. Again, just there's 1,800 acres that are both in the city limits of Hickory or our ETJ and Burke County. So that's the volume of acreage that we have in Burke County. Obviously, you're in Burke County right now, Hickory Regional Airport. And the city of Hickory owns about 750 acres of property in Burke County, mostly down at the airport by LP Friends Stadium and some property along the lake. And we've had over $41 million in investment programmed or habitat programmed. And this is real money. This isn't something that money we're trying to get. This is money that we've already set aside for public infrastructure projects in and around the Hickory portion of Burke County. And just to give you some examples, so the widening of 9th Avenue Drive, which is the main road from LP Friends Stadium up to the airport, that was through a partnership already with Burke County. You all applied on our behalf for Appalachian Regional Grant for widening that road and making improvements, be a 3-lane road, 2 travel lanes, center turn lane. That's about a $3 million project that's being designed currently. And another grant application that you all submitted on our behalf was for extending sewer service around the Hickory Regional Airport, and that also is in the design phase. And we've already extended a large water line, a 16-inch line to the airport. Part of that was because of the fire suppression system. That hangar is extremely robust, and we had water to the airport, but it was a 12-inch line, so we needed additional water and pressure. So that project is complete. We're building around town 10 miles of a 10-foot wide multimodal walk system. This particular one that will come by the airport we're referring to as the aviation walk. And that's a $17 million project that will span over US 321 and then come up by the LP Friends Stadium all the way up to the airport. So that one is in the design phase. That should be, bids on that should be let this summer. And additionally, our Riverwalk project, which is actually on the top of the river in Lake Hickory. So there's again, a 10-foot wide multimodal walk that'll also have a bridge. The terminus of that will be the Digger Lackey Park, and that's about a $16 million investment. And the city's going to make some park improvements to that park as well, to the tune of about $3 million. So when you add that up, it's $41 million. And obviously, when you all have done projects before, we've been working on a lot of this for multiple years, but now everything's coming to reality, being on the verge of the construction phase. You can see the black and red line is the Burke County line. You can see the overwhelming majority of the airport is in Burke County. It's a little bit hard to make out, but there's a red line that is also our extraterritorial jurisdiction, but that'll give you an idea of the scope and scale of the property that we're talking about. That the runway that we were just out on runs more or less north and south. We're in the process of working to close that runway so we can do more hangar construction and potentially some industrial projects on the end of it that are aviation related. So that'll leave us with our main runway, which is 6,400 feet now. We've got a project I didn't include in here that'll be mostly federally funded that'll extend the main runway to just over 7,000 feet. So that project in process. So a lot of exciting things happening. If you look, it's interesting when you look at the line to the right, you can see all the development that's taken place, and you look to the left, not as much, but you can see all the opportunity that is out there in terms of future development around the airport. That just gives you an idea. This is our Riverwalk project. US 321 is the road up there, and there'll be a bridge that comes out over the lake and it ties into a trail system out there. And again, the terminus of the Riverwalk is going to be the Lackey. A local businessman is creating an event center, and we're naming the park in honor of his wife in exchange. Rodney, you want to just briefly talk about the scope and scale of that project?
Yeah, so the building there at front center is called the Lake House. It's an event center. Primarily will be used for weddings on the weekends, but also corporate retreats, meetings, etc. And then they're going to have a restaurant component with the Lake House. We don't know all the details yet, but there will be an opportunity for a walk-up restaurant/drink from the outside, as well as using the interior of a portion of the Lake House for a restaurant component. That building is now over 20,000 square feet in design. They have begun to shop or price that project with local contractors, we were told last week. And so they are finalizing that design and the cost for that. Once they agree on a price with a contractor, we're looking at about 6 more months to finish the construction drawings, and then we can bid the project. The city's portion is really on the right part of the screen there. You see boat dock, fishing dock, secondary water access, park lawn, park restroom. And then the parking lot, you see the main parking lot. That's the city's responsibility. Bottom left, almost off the screen, you see an overflow parking component. The Lackey family, they will be responsible for paying for the overflow parking, because the premise is if they have a wedding of 250 people, which taxes the existing parking lot, then they need to pay for the overflow parking. You might ask where the additional folks are going to park. We've got Hilton Park and Hickory City Park just to the right and the left of the screen, that they would entertain shuttles to move folks back and forth from their car to a large wedding venue.
And the reason I wanted to highlight this is again, this has been years in the making. This is the first private sector project that's come along, and we anticipate we've got interest in a lot more out there. So, with the infrastructure getting ready to be in place, we feel like there's a lot of opportunity for development on the Burke County side out there. So we're excited about that.
I should add, Warren, part of our city council's agreement with the family, the top left conservatory building. Once the Lake House is complete, there is a time limit in the contract for when they need to begin that conservatory building. That will house the remains of the Lackey family and Mrs. Lackey, Deidre Lackey herself. Once it's constructed, it will be a park amenity, glass that you can see through with lush gardens and plants. Mr. Lackey describes it, he wants it to be similar to the Biltmore Gardens, that high-end park slash landscaped amenity. So that's probably in the next few years per our contract that they have to construct that facility.
And the good news, all that is going to be taxable property as well. Well, good news for us, not for Mr. Lackey property. So that'll give you an idea of the bridge that's being designed to go over US 321 as part of the aviation walk. It's going to be a pretty nice entrance to the city now that doesn't exist. Okay, so we're here to talk about hangars. So there are 62 general aviation airports in North Carolina. So here's how the Hickory, general aviation or airports that don't have commercial service, although we are trying to get commercial service. So here's how we compare to those 62 airports around the state. So we're 26th best in economic output, 24th best in the number of jobs, 22nd best in the state and local taxes produced, and 26th best in personal income. So that puts us in the top 40%. So there's room for improvement, and that's really why we're focused on the airport. We have not historically used it as an economic driver, but that is changing with all the investments that we're making. So we feel like there's a lot of room for improvement in those numbers. And additionally, this number is actually a little outdated. I think it's $37.6 million in aircraft property value at the Hickory Regional Airport. And obviously, the good thing about that type of tax value is you really don't have to provide any general services to that. And there's the hangar that we just saw. That's a 32,000 square foot hangar. It was $2.5 million. We did get some insurance money to go along with that. But that's, when you get over 12,000 square feet, it keeps you in a fire code category that requires a really robust system. The fire system in that thing was $500,000 by itself. This is what we're proposing in terms of getting out of the gate with hangar construction. This is a 12,000 square foot hangar, and it's on the west end of the airport, and there's room for another one out there. So I believe that's be the first hangar that we would propose building in that 12,000 square foot. And you can get 3 to 4 aircraft in there. Rodney's going to go over some of that. And these are going to, when we build these are going to be set aside for the larger aircraft that we've been having to turn away. You get these multi-million-dollar planes, and the owners, they don't want it sitting in the weather. So those would be accommodating those types of the larger aircraft. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rod. Rodney's going to go through the details and the memorandum of understanding. And again, if y'all have questions as we go through, just feel free to stop us and ask.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Wood. So I've just listed the highlights of the memorandum of understanding that is before you. The city and county agree that an increase in aircraft tax base is mutually beneficial for both of us by providing additional property tax revenue. That's really the premise behind this. The more high dollar aircraft we get to call Hickory and Burke County home, the larger revenue source we've got in the form of property tax revenue. The existing hangars at the airport are not sufficient to attract additional aircraft. We've been getting hounded for months to get that 32,000 square foot hangar built because people won't put their planes there. Well, that hangar is now full. We've got more demand than we have supply. So hence, that's why we talked to Mr. Wood, Mr. Steen, got together late last year. What can we do? Is there any interest? And we landed on a 12,000 square foot hangar, as Mr. Wood mentioned. In addition to that hangar, obviously provides space to attract additional aircraft. We have got a person in Michigan today that wants to bring his plane to the Hickory Airport, and he has not been able to do that yet. It is a high dollar airplane. That is the one we're attracting. Ironically, he is building a home in the mountains here in North Carolina. And he's going to move here, and he wants to bring his plane, and we are having welcoming arms to bring that aircraft to Hickory and Burke County. City agrees to design and construct the additional hangar. Our folks will handle all that, the bidding, or the design, the bidding, the construction management. 12,000 square feet, as Mr. Woods mentioned, per the code, if you stay 12,000 feet or under, you do not have to have that additional fire suppression capability that we had to have for the 32,000 square foot hangar. We will need to sprinkle that building. There will be just a normal sprinkle system in the building with just water, no foam, because of the number of gallons that will be in the fuel tanks of those aircraft. The city intends to use this hangar solely for aircraft with tax values in excess of $1 million. Well, that's not to say we're going to kick out a plane. Your plane's only worth $950,000, but that's our intent, right? Ironically, there was a plane being taxied as you were walking back over here. I don't know why that happened. I guess just so that y'all could see one, perhaps. But that's the size of aircraft, that and larger, that we will target. Now, the one in Michigan, it's 10 million plus. So you can see when you add zeros to those aircrafts, that adds zeros to our property tax revenue as well. The baseline, the taxable value per Burke County's tax department, July 1 of last year, was $37,641,250 in aircraft value. That's what we're proposing would be the baseline that we would set, mutually agree, and then anything in excess of that, I'll show you in the next bullet, anything in excess of that, the county would agree to contribute 50% of that excess revenue, anything above that baseline, towards the cost of this new hangar. Now, the listing period, I think, ends in April for personal property in Burke County. We'll rely on your tax office. Your bills for Burke County, which includes the Hickory Airport, will go out in July typically. So once that will come from the Burke County Tax Department, we'll compare that value to this value each year. And if it's higher, the additional revenue, 50% of that, this agreement says that Burke County would contribute towards that hangar. Does that make sense to everyone? We have tentatively estimated this hangar to be about $1 million. Most recently, we think it could be up to $1.2 million. But we think it's going to land around $1 million. And again, as I mentioned before, as long as that baseline is exceeded, the additional money each year above that, 50% of that would be contributed by Burke County, and then your cap would be 50% of the cost. So you would continue that until we hit 50% of whatever that cost is. The city and county, per the agreement, will mutually decide if that additional hangar construction under this agreement should commence. Meaning, let's hope we're very successful with hangar number 1. Let's hope the aircraft values exceed that baseline by a significant amount. We're able to pay that hangar off. We would come back together and say, hey, do we want to do this again, or are we done? That's what the agreement says. And I should specify back on this, I don't think I changed that bullet. The agreement, one of the last minute changes, it says approximately $1 million. In your agreement, it says your cost would be capped at 50% of the cost, or half of $1.2 million. So the most you would pay is $600,000 towards that hangar, yet it's capped if it's lower at 50%. And that did not get reflected here in this slide, I apologize. But that is in your agreement. And we're happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I kind of anticipated more than 4 aircraft, but maybe I wasn't thinking big enough on the aircraft. So based on those figures, one of the questions I had was, what length of contract do you think, how many years will it take us to pay that $600,000 share of Burke County's commitment?
That's tough to answer. It's going to depend on the value of the aircraft. But we would, if we finance the hangar, we think 10 years based on our estimation. Worst case.
10 years,
Yes, sir.
okay?
But after that point, 100% would be retained for that particular hangar, by Burke County.
Yes. Yes.
And, well, one of the other questions I have, and I hope I'm correct on this, my assumption is that there will be some additional tax dollars that won't be related to the hangar or to the airplanes that are there. And I don't know if we have discussed several times over the last, Wayne, what, 20 years? We discussed an airport up at, between McDowell and Burke at one point. And I guess my question is, can we anticipate maybe some of that influencing some airport park business that obviously is going to generate a whole lot more taxes than just the taxes off of the airplane? Has that been thought through? Is there an estimate or guess? Or?
Let me try to answer your question better the second time. A $10 million aircraft, let's say that $10 million, we exceed that by $10 million. Your tax rate's I'm just going to round it 60 cents. That's $60,000 a year that we would get in revenue. So half of that is $30,000 that you put towards this hangar. We think it's going to be in excess of $10 million. So $20 million provides $120,000 in Burke County. Is that what your rate, 60?
69.
69, so it's higher than that, but worst case, let's say 60. If you get $20 million of aircraft, which would be our target, that's $120,000 in Burke County tax revenue. You provide $60,000 of that to Hickory for the hangar, there's your 10 years. 60,000 times 10 years is $600,000. That's where the 10 years came from. Certainly, we're shooting for more than that. If we could get the higher the tax value of planes that come in, the quicker that gets paid off. So hopefully I've answered that better the second time. Your second question is, we feel like we've got a significant amount of economic development opportunity around the airport, both inside the fence and out. The city, I'm not sure if you know, we own 2 large parcels just outside the airport that we've had some interest. In fact, the project that was going to happen actually went to Burke County, elsewhere in Burke County. It's a business park.
The dog or the pet food.
The pet foods project. They looked at this particular site. We've had a second interest in that, but it just hasn't come to fruition. But we think those economic development opportunities benefit both of us, both from a city standpoint and a county standpoint.
And here's the scenario, another scenario. So let's say we fill the hangar up with $20 million worth of jets and we lose a $20 million jet. Then your obligation is zero. So that's the other, we're the ones paying back the debt on the hangar 100%.
Based on our interest, we think we can significantly increase the tax value that's sitting out here at the airport in aircraft.
I don't see why you can't. I mean, the formula is there to do that. I did a little math on my own and came up with somewhere around $40,000 a year in additional taxes, which would get us many more years on this agreement. But if it's going to be $60,000, that pleases me a good deal. That shortens it down. I had us up around double that, so 10 years would be wonderful.
And as we haven't mentioned, but the other 50% of that Burke County keeps, right?
Correct.
You would keep that for, as Mr. Wood said, I don't know of any county services that you'd be providing for that additional aircraft. Unless those folks moved here and they were out in the county, outside the municipality, could be, but I don't know where exactly they're moving. In this particular instance with the gentleman from Michigan, obviously he's living outside of the county anyway.
So in your estimation, by the time you build the hangar, you're going to have it full?
Yes.
I think that's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
What is the timeline? I mean, you're talking about people that are almost chomping at the bit
So go
to
ahead,
come,
Ronnie.
so we don't want to lose the $10 million plane.
So we had already begun a process with the federal government through General Services Administration. And we actually narrowed that down. We had 2 bidders. There's 27 or so certified bidders in the United States for a project like this. We had 2 bidders that were interested. Their numbers came in a little higher than we expected. We have since learned that we can do that much cheaper locally. Both of those companies were based out of state, and some of their numbers they were higher than what we expected them to be. So we have got a local design firm giving us a proposal, we hope by the end of this week. Assuming this agreement is executed, we would pursue that design immediately. We're probably looking at 2 to 3 months to complete the design, and then you could start construction. I'll add where we're situating or plan to situate the first hangar. There's an old blast wall sitting out there. For those of you that know the airport, we've actually contracted with a local company to begin removing that blast wall and grading the site. And he told us a week ago he'd start in 3 weeks. So we're inside 2 weeks for him to go ahead and start that. So we've tried to do as much as we could without interfering with the potential of the MOU.
How does the fuel sales work out in this agreement?
Fuel cells are not included in the agreement. So the city of Hickory would retain the fuel cells, and of course, which offsets the staffing needed to fuel and move those planes. So we did not include anything related to fuel cells in the agreement.
How is hangar space leased right now? What kind of terms? If the gentleman from Michigan brings a $10 million aircraft, how long do we do length of contract? Can you explain that a little bit?
I'm going to have to rely on my airport manager to help with that. The lease terms?
Lease terms, basically, we have an agreement with whoever comes, whatever type aircraft, and it's usually on a month-to-month basis that we have this agreement with. Somebody like that, a company like that is negotiable, that we could look at them, and it's important if they're bringing in, if they're bringing in their flight department also with that. All that would take with office space, so we'd have to look at every bit of that. We have on our rates and fees, that was one of the things that 10 years ago when we took over the FBO, that we wanted to look at sort of the whole area, and we've got everything posted from the small aircraft all the way up to the one that you've seen out on the north ramp that was being tugged out, was a Hawker at a certain price. So we have all that per hangar, whether it's an open hangar, we only have now one open hangar left, and the rest of them are closed heated hangars, so they're all versus a tie down outside. So we've got all our rates and charges for each aircraft.
It's fair to say it's a mixed bag, depending on the type of aircraft.
And it is, it's so hard, and it's a great question, it's so hard for me to answer because there's so many different types of aircraft and how we do, and the types, it's just, but we all have all that.
And that money typically will go for covering the insurance, the water, the sewer, the utilities, and all those ancillary things that go along with running a hangar.
Can you remind me why the 7,000-foot runway, you told me before, but I can't remember why that's the sweet spot?
Well, you get it. It's an attractive number that in the aviation world, you got 7,000 feet. Somebody, these are Rodney's words, not their words.
Sure.
B, we've been told that planes that travel from East Coast to West Coast, because their tanks are not large enough, they can't get from the East Coast to West Coast from here to California, for example, without stopping to land, which costs them time and money. Having a longer runway gives them further distance to be able to take off, and primary takeoff, not landing.
They can't top their tanks off.
Yeah, when you have a bigger fuel tank, it's harder to take off and land.
Okay. And out of the 62 general aviation airports, how many are 7,000 feet? Just out of curiosity, you know?
A handful, I would guess.
There's a handful,
But not many.
we're at 6,400 feet on our main runway. I'd be guessing, I apologize.
It's not,
I don't know if I can find that out.
it would just be a handful, and we're saying 7,001 foot, so we can say we're over 7,000.
Now, that's more of a marketing thing.
How much that 1 foot cost?
Terry's got a 7,000 foot tape measure.
Yes, sir.
One more question. Somebody asked something and it triggered a question for me that if you expand that runway to take on bigger planes, will placing this hangar keep that from continuing? I noticed you're going to close one runway. I took my airplane pilot lessons here under Don Lewis. I don't know if you remember him or not. He's older than I am, but anyhow, it was kind of convenient to have two runways to use. Do you have space to have two long runways lined up together, north-south?
So we do not.
Do not.
And one of the challenges that we run into with the secondary runway is that for resurfacing that is 100% on the city. And that's about a $4 million resurfacing bill that we would have. But if it's a taxiway, we can get federal money, 90% federal money to resurface it. So that's just the economics of that. And the traffic on that particular runway is, what's the percentage of usage?
It's very low. It's compared to our main runway, it's probably less than, it's probably about 2 to 3%.
So the thought of closing that is then we have more opportunities for hangars and aircraft, and just the volume of air traffic, which obviously is fuel and or hangar, and economic development opportunities. If you close that, then if there's an aviation business, FedEx, for example, if they wanted to come to Hickory and Burke County, we have an opportunity for them to go out there on that old closed runway.
So, yeah, I think a secondary question to that, do we have enough, will you have enough room to accommodate a carrier that, like you used to with Piedmont, and I forgot who it was followed that, but
You want to cover how that works,
Yeah,
Terry?
yes. We will still, we're in the pursuit now of commercial service. We would love to have commercial service back. We've hired a consultant company to help us with that, even to that point. We would love to set up some type of model for, say, like what Concord did with the Legion. We know that we've got a lot of our, the second homes up in western North Carolina that need to go south to Florida. So we know that there's a market and we're trying to work on that. But anything that we're doing with the secondary runway will have nothing, no bearing on commercial service.
There's a certificate that you have to be eligible to have commercial service, and we have held on to that certificate, so.
Yeah, even after we, you know, at one period of time, we had Delta ASA coming in, and that particular model didn't work. But we've held on to our 139 FAA certificate, just with the hopes, and we knew it would come back one day. And that's why we still, every year, we go through our FAA inspection.
And having a manned tower, which I believe is majority federally funded, is another great asset for the airport.
We have a contract tower 7 days a week, 7 in the morning till 9 at night. And we have a fully manned fire station, ARC, that's here on the field, ready. So we meet we have a lot of great airports sitting around us, but they do not meet the 139. So we're welcoming back as soon as we can commercial service.
So the 139 is the FAA certificate section of the code, section 139. And the only folks that have that are the big guys that you think of. So you got PTI, you've got Concord, you've got Asheville, no one up north, and then Charlotte.
Correct.
And then it's out there. That'll be further east.
But west of us, we're the 139. We hope that.
We could turn the switch on very quickly.
I think
and we
every
work
county
hard.
around us would love to have a commuter airline out of Hickory. It'd be very convenient. I don't know why it wouldn't pay for itself, but that's a little off the subject. Just wanted to know if that would hinder us in any way for you to have a commuter airline if you place that additional hangar wherever you're putting it. So
Well, I'm happy to share with you, it's no secret, we engaged a consultant to begin pursuing commercial service, air service last summer. And they have done a study, what's called a catchment area, which they looked, the areas I just went, this side of Greensboro, this side of Charlotte, this side of Asheville, all the way to Boone. That particular market, and they found all of us that have traveled within the last 2 years. Which airport did you go to? Where did you go? And they capture that information. And the feedback from the consultant was favorable, that we would be in line and be very attractive to a commercial air carrier, number one. Number two, that Concord has the ability to add another gate for another airline. They would probably go before us. But we would be second because there's no one else in the western part of the state. So if we're attractive enough and they don't want to compete with the other carrier that's currently existing in Concord, we would be a great opportunity for a commercial air carrier.
That's good.
And COVID didn't hurt us, but three of us were going to have a conference, an air conference, in January that got canceled due to COVID, to start getting our name out in front of these air carriers across the country.
Good.
Well, I would like to say thank you to Brian Steen and his staff. They've been great to work with. You know, we've done a lot of different things together, and we're excited about the opportunity to partner with you all on this.
All right, I'll just echo what's been said. We're extremely pleased to enter, hopefully, prospectively into this partnership with Burke County, and I know that a lot of folks from both agencies have worked together to make this happen, so it's an exciting day for Hickory and Burke County. All right, at this time, I'll make a motion on behalf of the city of Hickory that we move forward with this MOU that you've just heard described for both councils.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second from the Hickory City Council. Let me just add to that all members of the Hickory City Council are present. So I'll ask, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. That passes unanimously for the Hickory City Council.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, you've heard this information, had time to ask questions. I'll entertain a motion at this time on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Burke County and the City of Hickory as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that is 5-0. And are we ready for adjournment?
Yes, sir, you can go ahead and adjourn the commissioners, and I'll do the council.
All right, well, just before we adjourn, to commemorate our agreement today and our partnership, and hopefully this is an opportunity for us to partner in perhaps other things here around the airport and the city of Hickory. And I too want to express appreciation to Mr. Woods and Mr. Steen for their vision and insight together to bring this project to us. I think it's a great project, and we look forward to working together. But I know you guys have been working on a trail system, a walk system. We've been doing the same thing in Burke County around our lake and the Ponte Flora State Trail. So as a matter of to commemorate our time today, I want to ask our clerk to assist me. We're going to give you a little gift to take home and come to Burke County and walk with this walking stick.
Well, we didn't get y'all anything. So
I thought we were in Burke County.
Yeah, we're already in Burke County.
Hey, walking stick.
Well,
This is our official Ponte Flora.
well,
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you to all of you.
We should have taken a picture with these.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
They're gorgeous.
We are within 3 easements of closing the entire 26 miles around Lake James. So that will occur in the next month.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
have those easements done. And as soon as we close that 26-mile loop, we will again proceed through McDowell County on to Asheville with the remainder of the trail. So we, like Jeff said, we encourage you to come up and take a look at, especially around Lake James. It is just a gorgeous trail. It does have a walkway. We will be anticipating a park. The county park will be opening before too awfully long, closing out some deals on that. So it is a tremendous asset, and I think that the tie-in with the airport and the trail systems that we're having, well, I don't think we've recognized what that is yet.
Right.
So tourism is huge in Burke County right now, and it's been a godsend to us. And so we're hoping that the vision we that you have had over the last years, Mayor, along with your boardwalks and the tie-in between Highway 321, the airport itself, and tourism in Burke County, I think will be a tremendous asset for both of us.
We'll have to see what the closest point would be to connect our aviation walk to your walk.
All right, well, thank you very much, and with that, I'll entertain the motion for Burke County to adjourn.
Chairman,
Yes, sir?
so moved.
All right, those in favor, signify by lifting the hand. That is all of it. Thank you.
All right, well, we want to thank you for the gift. We greatly appreciate that, and we look forward to future meetings such as this. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion from the Hickory City Council to adjourn as well.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.